The corpse looks at you with bulging white eyes. The face around them does not look human. It's swollen and ready to burst. His lips are fish-like and his tongue like a ball gag in his mouth. You seem to be holding your breath. A cargo belt twists his neck at an unnatural angle. The body below appears stiff. It's letting out an ungodly rot. The smell seeps in even through your clenched nostrils.
Active decay. It's okay to throw up, officer. No one is judging.
He's about to blow! Cock's gonna blow, Kuno!
As you breathe in, the odor comes over you. It's a spell of the mind telling you to run, and your stomach to wring itself empty. With your hands at your sides and your eyes squinting, you stand in it. It's a puzzle. What's hanging in front of you is a puzzle of decaying flesh, tattoos, and tendons. Your muscles tense up. The vision in your dead angle darkens. You feel the sudden urge to push your hand into his soft gut. The spell has no effect. You stand eye to eye with it, the odor washing through you. This delicate machine, ready for picking. Instinctively you crack your fingers.
They do after 7 days, yes. We are deep in decomposition here.
The man before you is naked, but for a pair of underpants and enameled boots. His skin is greenish, marbled with decaying veins and blotched by lividity. A fading web of tattoos covers his chest and shoulders. The cargo belt used to fasten him to the branch above appears industrial in strength.
We should have a look at that belt before we even consider taking him down. It looks worrisome.
The hangman's knot is pulled tight by the weight of the corpse below. Yellow, hard-edged polyester cuts into his neck. Above, a sliding buckle ties the belt to the branch. This is a steel-reinforced cargo lashing belt, big brother of the regular cargo belt. It's used for tying cargo under 6-rotor airships. Oh my, there's something on the belt. A familiar word that speaks to the thirst within you. Vermilion, in yellow letters, along the length of the twisting cargo belt. Only a deep longing for vermilion golden spirits lets you decipher the fading logo of the local brewery.
No, you should not get a drink. You should perform an initial inspection of the victim's corpse. We are on the rope part. Airlifting. I thought it was used on lorries for strapping cargo to them. The local harbor uses 6 rotors to shuffle containers around. I get the sense they use whatever was on hand without paying much attention to not incriminating themselves. I was afraid it would be. Thin steel wiring, parallel strands. This makes getting him down more problematic than I had assumed. I'm still approaching this as a lynching, yes, motivated by the ongoing strike. You?
No, you feel like it was something else. But what?
70% of the cases I get are just filling in the blanks on the initial report. This belt worries me. A noose is one of those things that's easier to use one way around. That ladder can't carry a grown man. I didn't see any splintering either, did you? I think they lassoed the branch, then pulled on the belt to close the buckle.
Could be. The shape of the branch supports the theory. The cadaver hangs from the cargo belt, limbs limp and torso covered in tattoos. The material appears to be ceramic. Its clean white stands in stark contrast to the decaying flesh above the knee. The man wore thick polymer socks, probably for padding. A fine array of interlocking plates covers them. Delicate and fragile, They feel alien to the world around you, out of place somehow. These are clearly not boots. They're armor, possibly part of a larger set.
Indeed. Technically speaking, these are sabatons, not boots.
Oh, the lieutenant uses a memo technique A6. That's not just any notebook. It's a classic. It's clearly some manner of super armor or future armor. Super future armor. I'm useless.
Ceramic plate. Zirconium dioxide, most likely. This is where the make would be. Under the heel. Fair weather. Fair weather model T500 VE. I'm guessing that's vitreous enamel. This is advanced stuff. It is. It's expensive. We've requested similar material for our tactical units for years now. The constabularies deemed it too costly. In that time, we've lost 6 men to semi-automatics. For a full set, about 4 years of wages.
For the northwest region of Revachol, an officer's average yearly income is 5,500 rial, unadjusted for rank.
Not too much, yes. It's a sorry situation, I agree. That's for us to find out. My initial report on the area suggests he was a security guard for the harbor company, but that's just hearsay. I agree. This equipment is way beyond what a guard can afford. Piece by piece, he's been out here for 7 days. It would be odd if they didn't. We should keep a lookout for these pieces. The armor could yield information. Maybe he'll know something.
If you wear those pieces, it will help me protect your mortal coil.
No, he must have worn something precious underneath his clothes. They've removed all his clothes to get to it. They did not just strip him for the putrid rags. Someone could have cleaned the yard, but that's a question for the red hat thing.
I hear you, cop, talking shit about the Kuno. Come here and say it to Kuno's face.
They usually hang them completely naked for that. La puta madre, the Mazda, the Besmerties and the like. This one still has his underpants.
What? Are you trying to ignore me now, fuckface?
Kuno, this boots shit is super boring and the guy's a total Victopaz.
A small bell-like sound fills the air, like tapping on the side of a porcelain cup. Suddenly, your biceps coil up. Your elbow is sharp and cocked for a punch.
It's anything but. This material is a kinetic redistributor. It spreads kinetic energy horizontally, from plate to plate, dissipating it entirely. See?
Faint, organic lines cover the plates where they separate into smaller ones. These plates then divide into smaller plates until there are hundreds of them altogether. Like whirls of floorboards, the design looks organic, influenced by highly resistant wood materials, like lignum vitae and ebony perhaps. If trees were made of porcelain, this is what their cross-sections would look like. The smooth, glossy surface fractures into ever more intricate interconnections, peaking on the right sabaton, where you notice. The whirls are in the shape of a letter and number combination, E50, 100, 1000.
Good. Can you read it to me?
X5415 6745 678222. Let's lie.
We have a make and a number. That's something. We can use the radio in my kinema when we're done. Either station can chase it for us.
This feels dangerous. Are you sure? The sabatons dangle off the man's decaying form, ageless and synthetic. The cadaver slowly twists on the cargo belt, his torso covered in tattoos and extremities blotched pink and blue. An intricate web of blue lines stretches across the torso, from the right shoulder to the solar plexus. Each time they intersect, a small white star is formed in their crossing. Hundreds of fading asterisks riddle his skin. Their concentration is highest around his heart. His corpse is marked by stars, alcohol, and heartbreak. Your fist clenches suddenly. Decay is creeping on the tattoo. Already, most of the canvas that's holding it has darkened. Now, it disintegrates slowly, letting out a stink.
Of no nation that I know of. If anything, it reminds me of religious illumination, last or penultimate century. Men who live harsh lives often turn to innocentic worship. But which one? I see no trace of a humanoid figure.
The pattern does not stir patriotic or religious sentiment in you. What it does is speak to the wounded, limping animal, the male in particular, unable to communicate in anything more than grunts. It's impossible to tell if its advice is right or wrong.
So am I.
He wears a wide leather belt around his waist and a gun holster under his arm. He takes a thin piece of milled aluminium from his coat pocket and pulls it open. Sounds like a sword being unsheathed. A small lens appears, some sort of camera.
A Trigger Sunshine, Mini.
Triggered is the world's leading manufacturer of intercommunication devices, primarily projectors. The camera before you looks familiar somehow.
Shit, Kuno! What the fuck is that?
An instant color camera.
This is the first time he openly acknowledges the kid's existence.
I have only 2 ampoules, so nobody move. I don't want to waste one.
A sound, a shrill flash, followed by the breaking of a small ampoule of glass. You see streams of color pour onto the thick, glossy piece of paper, rolling out.
In case we need it. It contains insight to the victim's person. By his build, I'd say this was a man of physical violence. The story he wanted his body to tell was important to him. It is his letter, to us. Someone should decipher it. We'll need to show it around. Sure, just don't lose it.
The glassy-eyed corpse looks by, his mouth mute and his skin as colorful as the chemical rainbow on the photo paper, teeming with opportunistic organisms.
You've acquired an interactable item. Investigate this item further by going to the Interact tab in your inventory.
His eyes are milky white and blind to the world, protruding comically from their sockets. There is no one home, just subaquatic terrors there. These eyes used to be blue, baby blue. Dark brown hair grows on his head. His face is ready to explode from the organic processes inside. The death's head grin has passed. What remains is an unrecognizable mess. Underneath the curdled meat there is an expression, not carried on his features, but below, inside, an expression of pleasure. This man was experiencing joy at the moment of his death.
Good. The victim is of Occidental descent. Light brown hair, blue eyes.
When he says Occidental, he means white, originally from the Occidental subcontinent on Muindi.
Why do you think so? Okay.
I'm gone. Into the wild pale yonder. In the past, way out in the west. I'm a joke. Look at me. A killer. A motherfucker. And a killer.
Takes one to know one.
Go ahead, Cobbo. What do you mean? It's the power of your imagination.
Yeah, man! Don't be crazy! Inanimate objects and dead people can't really talk to you. Your wild imagination is doing this. Ask some more of those questions you love so much.
He loves those. Because you're a copperoonie. Look at all of them go. Do you want more questions? Here you go, you loony. Maybe I was getting my rocks off. It's a mishmash, Coppabolo. You think I'm Messinian, don't you? For you, this is how people from Messina speak like. Well, I'm not from Messina, am I? My hair is too light a shade of brown. Trust your inner racist. You think I am. You think I was a racist because this lump looks military and has tattoos. That's called profiling. Do I look like an erotic auto-asphyxiation type to you? Captain Coppodromo, I fear we are drifting away, fixating on sexuality again. Let's go with a simpler question.
He didn't choke himself. You know it.
Fuck no. You're no Rooney. No, you don't. Between you and me, your name is probably Harry. Because you have. Come back later, Corpo. Amuse yourself with my frank manners and my memento mori features. If possible, also, see me in your dreams.
As you narrow your eyes, the monster before you blurs into a violent mess of green and pink. This is a trick. You've done it before. Pink is where the blood settled in the first hours post-mortem. You can use it to see if the corpse has been tampered with. Does his position at the time of death match the discoloration? Only the lower extremities are pink with a dash of blue. His fatted hands, thighs, and his neck, just above the noose. The rest of the corpse appears dark green in the cold spring air.
I see it. His neck too. The lividity goes right up his chin. We have good, well-pronounced discoloration here.
The monster comes back into focus, an explosion of color coursing with dark marbled veins. His stomach appears pregnant with something. Black liquid streams down his thigh and onto his boot.
So, what do you think?
I think he's dead and about to explode. A pool of blood and feces has eaten into the frozen mud below the man's feet. Purge liquid is dripping into it. drop by drop.
The victim appears to have contained no more than half a kilogram of digestion at the time of death.
The fuck he saying?
Talking about shit.
Did we? I don't feel lucky. There's a strong buildup of gases, yes. Rigor mortis becoming livor mortis. He'll be fully limp by tomorrow. I don't think he'll explode. I hope not.
For 7 days, the cadaver is quite well preserved. Surprisingly so. There's no deflation, no apparent fly larvae in the abdomen.
As I said, it's been below freezing since last Sunday. Today is the first chance to thaw. Things would be worse if it had thawed earlier. I do. Most of them are post-mortem. Maybe even all of them. The delinquents have made our jobs harder with their little sport.
Stop talking in riddles, coin slot.
It means you fucked him up good, Kuno. Fucked him up brutal-like.
Agreed, especially on the neck. The belt acted like a tourniquet, keeping the blood in his head. The hypostasis supports a hanging.
You would still like the hypostasis marks in the neck to be a bit more pronounced.
There's always a chance. We should check for ligament marks on his neck to see if they're in tune with the belt. We'll have to get him down first.
But there is no breath to catch. Only the cadaver filling the air and your nostrils. He slowly rotates before you, decomposing.
Are you sure we finished the preliminary examination of the cadaver? We might miss some of these things once he's done. The steel-reinforced belt presents a unique challenge. I brought chain cutters, but I don't see a good angle of approach to the belt.
He doesn't actually think the challenge is unique. He thinks it's frustrating, annoying, and harder than he thought.
The cadaver is a good 1.2 meters up. Neither one of us can reach the belt without assistance. And even if we do, there's the question of cutting the airship strength material.
There's no question. There's only cutting. How hard can it be? An acrobatic maneuver would solve this situation. Nothing can go wrong with a good maneuver.
I have thought of that, yes. But the tire tracks would compromise the scene. Any prints would become illegible. That's if we get it through the hole in the fence. Also, my MC has a sloped roof. It's a sports model. The roof is slippery. An all-around bad platform to stand on.
He could come up with at least 4 more reasons why not to trample on the roof of his sports model motor carriage.
How about I take you, piggyback?
The fuck are these pigs talking about?
Are they bank or something? Oh, it's fucking boring, Kuno. Wish they'd fuck already.
I wasn't actually implying I would. I meant it's a bad idea.
It's a fucking hilarious idea. You two puskapas get on top of each other and fuck.
In silence, the lieutenant gives you a meaningful glance, as if to say, case in point.
Climb up there and saw the branch?
It seems unclimbable, cause the ladder is treacherously rotten, but you could use your hands and feet to reach around the tree, then hang from the branch.
There has to be a less risky way, with less falling down of trees. I don't doubt your physical prowess, officer, but this is a grueling surgical procedure. I saw 20 steel strands in there, and we do not have a secure platform for the cutting. The risk of acrobatic failure is one we cannot take. We must not become comedy for the locals.
The fuck have you got against comedy, pigs?
Yeah! Bang bang time, pig! Shoot his head off!
How?
With a buckle ties the rope to the branch. That's a good spot to aim.
Where? Ah, yes, I see. If the shot hits that, there might be a chance to release the belt.
Yeah, now we're talking. Entertain the Kuno with some shit.
They'll miss! The pigs will miss Kuno!
The lieutenant is undecided. On one hand, he wants to shoot some gun. On the other, it's an awfully stupid idea. Silence. With his elbow sharp, the lieutenant unzips his jacket and produces a lightweight firearm. He drops a paper cartridge in the barrel, separates the scouring stick, and gives the cartridge 5 tucks, securing it in place. That's a Kiel A9090 Armistice, mass-produced muzzle loader, ascetic, frugal, one of the most common firearms in the world. He then steps back and assumes the fellow's desk position, taking aim. The corner of his eye twitches. His finger is on the trigger.
He's gonna fucking miss!
The kid's voice is drowned in a shrill blast that echoes off the walls of the surrounding tenements. A cloud of smoke slowly parts in the air as the lieutenant steps back and says to himself,
God damn it.
a lot of things were wrong with that shot. The fellow's desk was the wrong choice. His shoulders were raised, but above all, he cannot trust his eyesight. Oh my God, that was so many types of wrong. Who taught Four Eyes to shoot? Whip up a grueling training regimen for him right now. Beat the man into him. Go, go, go. He feels bad about it. About his eyes mostly. Just having bad eyesight. Probably from a young age. Whatever you do, do not console him.
Fucking idiot! Mookabat asshole!
Kuno could have hit it easy, but then Kuno's not fucking handicapped, is he?
No, we are lucky as it is. We didn't break anything, and the victim remains uncompromised. Any more mistakes could put us in an unfortunate position with the locals. We have eyes on us. I didn't do us any favors with that. I have to say, it's beginning to look unlikely we can get him down without assistance.
You know, you don't feel like too bad of a shot yourself. Take his gun and show him how to use it.
It's bad as it is, us shooting firearms like punks. Go ahead, I'm not stopping you. Just don't lose it.
They only have one gun!
This is the sorriest pair of pigs Kuno's ever seen.
Yeah, take it, you fucking banani poika! Take it and shoot yourself in the mouth!
The cold piece of bakelite and gunmetal is surprisingly light. Your fingers fit right through the guard, instinctively resting on the trigger. You've held this, an A9 Armistice, before. At some point, it probably used to be your choice of firearm. It still feels comfortable, like you never laid it down.
The fuck are you waiting for, Kuno? Tell him to shoot himself in the mouth!
Kuno is silent. Aggression gathers in the air. The trigger feels delicate and ready to break under your finger. The buckle comes into focus in your sights. You stand with your feet planted firmly in the ground and your left hand supporting your gun arm.
Why don't you just shoot yourself in your mouth? At least you won't miss.
This isn't mere boundary pushing. There is a true suicidal rage in the kid as she's provoking you. Your field of view narrows. The branch slowly moves, becoming entirely two-dimensional. The metal buckle glimmers, slick with the falling rain. The corpse slowly rotates. The slow movement of the branch in the wind and your shoulders directing the gun sink up, dancing hypnotically. As you wait, your breathing slows down. Some mosquito-like organism buzzes in your peripheral.
Look, he's crying. You gonna cry now, fucking faggoty?
The buckle explodes into tiny pieces, coming loose with a whir. With your hand numb from the recoil, you look at the body slump down. For a moment, the man appears to kneel in front of you, looking straight at you, helpless, trapped within itself.
Communism.
It takes a millisecond for the association to flash within your cortex. You have no idea where it's coming from, only that it's right. Then the rigor in his muscles gives up, and he smashes sideways into the spring mud, letting out a horrid stench.
By being a damn good shot. Ace is high.
The Ace is High, a custom invented by the aerostatic brigades during the revolution, is used to celebrate success in Revachol, especially in sports. The gesture is spread across the world, despite the defeat of the revolutionaries themselves. You could add an Ace's Low to it, if you like, by turning your back after the high and waiting for another. The high arrives with a sharp slap. As you turn around, there is a moment of doubt. Feels like that low ain't gonna connect. Chill. It's gonna connect. But then it does, and with furious precision. The lieutenant is not one to leave an Ace's Low hanging.
I knew these guys were f***ed.
We will perform a field autopsy and determine the cause of death. But before... Excuse me.
Slumped on the ground like that has not improved the way the corpse smells. The fall seems to have released something deep inside it.
The stench is getting bad. I'm sorry to interrupt the jubilations here. I need a little breather before we do the autopsy. In the meantime, we should try to interview Evrard Clare, the leader of the Union. Harbor property was clearly used in the hanging. The harbor just east of here. Getting in might prove a challenge, though. Or we could ask around for the representative of the logistics company. My initial information says the Wild Pines have sent some sort of strike negotiator to wrangle control back from Evrard.
You could ask the gardener for directions.
Yes, and those were the interviewees. Let's go.
The rotting man lies on his side with his eyes looking straight through you. The belt is still around his neck. His body is supine and open to intrusion by autopsy. The lieutenant adjusts his glasses and takes a deep breath.
Shoot, Looney Rooney. Do I remind you of someone?
A child born with Muller's disease, harlequinism, grown up miraculously.
You sure wriggled out of that one, Coppellini. Come back later, Corpo. Amuse yourself with my frank manners and my memento mori features. If possible, also, see me in your dreams.
Come on, officer. You know what a field autopsy is. You've done 100 of them.
What you do know is, at 18.9 kilometers, the dormant shield volcano, Corpus Muindi, is the world's highest summit, and the failure of the 38 single, Et puis descend, to crack the top 20 was the death knell of disco. But what a field autopsy is, you have no idea. You must have me confused with the Copperpedia. You, sir, you are the Copperpedia.
Fine. It's a 3-part form to be filled out on the scene by the detectives responsible. One takes notes, the other dictates. The goal is to establish cause of death. A scalpel is not always required. I hope this is one of those cases. Latex gloves are, however. There truly is a time for everything, even for yellow gardening gloves. However, they are lacking hygienically. I suggest you get in there in limited capacity. I'll ask you when I need you to. For the most part, maybe I should handle the contact and you take notes?
You're being handled. If you resist now, he will turn on his heavy-duty authority mode. You'll get your chance to dig in later.
In your paperwork, officer, just fill out the field autopsy form. You've lost your paperwork, haven't you?
Now they only have one paperwork, too.
Officer, what haven't you lost? No need to be melodramatic, officer. I can give you my paperwork. There's an autopsy form there. Several, actually, but only if it helps move things along.
I should have just brought a dictaphone, he mumbles.
Right. The autopsy form is near the end.
The dead man stares in silence as you crack open the ledger. The bright red paper is covered in boxes and lists, describing the condition of his skin and organs in 3 parts. Above those, an 11-field info form needs filling out first. It begins with,
That's you.
the corpse lies there, indifferent to your retrograde amnesia. The next box says,
KK57-0803.0815. Next. NA. Next. NA. Roughly 50.
dry 40. The damage is so extensive, it's better to err on the young side. The corpse looks ageless, like meat on a hook. Teeming with opportunistic microorganisms, letting out a foul-smelling diamine compound. Your eyes turn watery.
Mondial. Subgroup Occidental, as per your observation.
The pudgy mess looks neither mondial nor occidental. It doesn't even look human. The next line says, as you read it, you think, that leaves out dark-haired Mesk, Sal, Sarah Mauritian, Kedratic. Lighter-skinned occidental means this man could be Vespertine, Oranese, Messinian. Those 3 are on the table. A solid guess, Mr. Racial Profiler. Also of note, your unconscious racial profiling machine ruled out Messinian before. Despite all the Copperoonies and Cobos, that leads Vespertine or Oranese. Continue.
Fucky fucky!
Male.
Pigs can have sex!
Nor does he look male, with his pregnant belly and indistinguishable face.
We're still going with March 4th, 51. What else? 9. Body identified by is non-applicable. 10. Case number is the same as the coroner's case.
KK 57 0503 0815 listens motionless, with the cargo belt still around his neck. Only one box remains.
None. At least not after the initial examination.
A strange word. Treatment.
Interfering with the body's position or wounds post-mortem.
How did you not know that? Aren't you a cop? You're leaving a weak impression here. Say something sure-handed. Don't overdo it. It's okay to be unsure.
They'd have to have incapacitated and carried him over. This man was more than a match for untrained dogwalkers.
Your central nervous system recognizes this gesture. It's the stations of the breath. Ecclesiastic, religious in nature, a holdout from pre-DeLorean burial rites. It takes him 2 seconds to perform. Then, somewhere in Jamrock North, a small wood shed behind Rosencrantz Row, Lieutenant Nick Feuerbat puts his hand to the chest of a small corpse, no larger than a monkey. It's raining outside, light drizzle. There is darkness in the shed. Elsewhere yet, an obese female sits in a wicker chair, her silhouette bull-like against the window. Outside, Grand Coudon. The day is turning dim for Sergeant Mac Dawson. Hand extended, he approaches, to make sure she is dead more than anything else. The building is tall, 7 stories wind-wrapped in solitude. Most of the apartments are unoccupied. This was a suicide. The other, an accident. The small one. And so, all across Jamrock, Coal City, GRIH, 42 deceased persons found today. 42 stations of breath.
We should start the post-mortem.
The corpse cannot feel Kim's hand on his chest. It no longer meaningfully interacts with its surroundings. A thicket of boxes and lists on red copier paper tries to answer why.
Clothes. The deceased wears armored boots and white briefs. The make of the briefs is Babrodine, I think. Let's see.
See, it's happening.
Babrodine, yes. Inexpensive. Size M. Color white.
The disappointment is palpable. The red-haired thing was expecting something more lurid.
The boots are ceramic, vitreous enamel. They are fused to his skin from blood flowing downward post-mortem. Removal of the boots is left for processing. The boot has a serial number. It's E50.100.100. The lines between the plates are in the shape of the alphanumerical. The number is purposefully concealed by the design. Tattoos. The upper torso is covered in a single continuous tattoo, resembling a national pattern. It reaches from the right shoulder to the heart. The ink is blue and white. The assistant has a color photograph of the markings, to be added to the case files as document A1. The photo is taken on the scene, using a Trigat Mini. The deceased has a belt for airlifting cargo around his neck, tied with a hangman's knot. Color yellow. Length 3 meters. There is a buckle on the other end. Well-nourished, athletically built, measuring 1.8 meters. Generally consistent with age, about 50. Preservation is good. Ambient temperature below freezing.
The spine is bent more than the lieutenant compensated for. This buster's actual height is about 1.85. And no, you could not take him straight on.
Body hair is light brown. Distribution is consistent with age. The deceased had male pattern baldness. Hair is combed back, short. Lividity is consistent with hanging. The head is congested. Contusions are present on the head, chest, and thighs, consistent with stones thrown post-mortem. Low velocity.
fucking low velocity. You think Kuno doesn't know what you're talking about? Velocity was fucking max. Talking shit about Kuno's velocity.
In addition, there are bite marks on the face, scalp, and chest, consistent with predation. Ligature mark. The steel wiring. There's too much of it. We need to remove the belt so we can get to the ligature mark.
You got just the right tool for that. The chain cutters.
Always good to think ahead. Now, we need to cut the belt to see the ligature mark below. Carefully, with as much precision as you can.
See, my pig is gonna fuck his head off.
No, he ain't. Your pig's a boring fuck.
The belt is equally tight around the whole circumference of his neck, swelling over the edges like white bread rising from the east. Would it be a good idea to cut the knot instead of the belt? Seems the more conservative approach. The knot is the weak spot. The chain cutters fit in there. Steady now, like a flower arranger. 2 cuts and it should come loose. After some deliberation, you sink the cutters into the knot tying the belt together. You squeeze the rubber handles together, sweat forming on your brow. Snap! The knot is slashed. Another cut and the belt falls apart like a flower bouquet, revealing the dead man's neck and the dark red ligature mark around it.
The rope rises to a point, leaving a gap in the ligature mark. The suspension point is in the back of the neck.
As it ought to. This is where its grip on the curdled meat is gentlest, pulling up.
Hemorrhaging is observed on the skin, above and below the ligature mark. The mark is well pronounced, consistent with a drop from 1 or 1.5 meters. Chest is intact, normal contour, abdomen is protuberant, pelvis intact, genitalia...
No! It's gonna happen, see!
I fucking knew it!
This is clearly what they've been waiting for, ever since the autopsy began. The lieutenant is trying to make it as boring as possible.
Genitalia is male and unremarkable. No evidence of injury. Ah yes, your hunch before. We can have a semen analysis requested from processing, if that's what you meant. Just write down that we request an analysis.
The corpse with his pants down does not have an opinion on the subject. All he has is genitals and a deathly odor. The dead man's penis is average-sized, congested from the downward collection of blood. The testicles are uneven in length, hanging underneath. The genitalia is greenish. Marbling is present around the crotch. You should touch it.
Back is symmetrical and intact. Upper and lower extremities are intact, but asymmetrical. There are combat injuries on the right hand, thigh, and hip.
Bullets have bitten little pieces out of him. It must have been excruciating, especially the hip. Before you is a temple of pain that knew little tenderness in life.
In addition, I see smaller, residual scars, too numerous to count, covering about 30% of his skin.
From wounds sustained over 2, maybe more decades, dispersal and accumulation indicates long and active combat duty.
Last item, hands. Hands are clean, no sign of a recent struggle. Maybe I'm just not seeing them. Honestly, this stench is making it hard for me to think at the moment.
Working so close to the fumes coming from the corpse must be hard. You realize suddenly that the lieutenant has been barely keeping it together these past 2 items.
Ooh. That's all for the external. Well done. What next? Central nervous system. I have nothing. Do you have anything on this man's central nervous system?
Of course, there is a moral to be drawn from it. A moral to this story.
Musculoskeletal. Purge fluid is coming from the mouth. Not injury related. Eyes and tongue protuberant. Hyoid bone. Let's see.
With his eyes almost closed, the lieutenant puts his hand on the dead man's throat and begins to massage it, gently. A rotting smell erupts from the mouth. Purge fluid runs down his lips, black and viscous. You hear cracks as the lieutenant moves his sharp fingers inside the flesh, like the creaking of an old house at night.
Yeah, jack that fucker off!
The hyoid bone is fractured. The rest of the musculoskeletal system is intact. Unremarkable. Respiratory system.
He's really doing it. The dead man's teeth cut into his gloved hands.
Oral cavity shows no lesions. The victim has received dental implants, possibly after a combat wound. Mouth swollen. Hemorrhaging present in mucosa of the lips and mouth.
From here, it looks as though the clown-faced man is screaming. The tendons of his jaw are torn apart. Hyoid ripped from the force of the lieutenant's hands.
Hepatobiliary, NA. Are you a hepatobiliary expert?
Hepato means liver, and biliary, the gallbladder and bile ducts. Nothing in your alcohol-soaked memory directs to having forensic expertise on either one.
Neither am I. Same for toxicology and serology, NA. Cardiovascular. The body exhibits heavy lividity. Blood has gathered in the hands, feet, and neck. Hypostasis is visually consistent with the hanging. Gastrointestinal.
This will do.
Digested semi-solid food in stomach. Voila. What's next on the list? Let's see. We have bite marks, contusions on the head and chest, and a ligature mark encircling the neck. You'll need 3 fields. Leave a 4th one too.
Be thorough if you want maximum results.
Head, chest, and scalp bite mark injuries. Predation by birds has caused damage to the body. Odontologist does not need to be consulted. And your opinion, officer? Fatal injury by seagulls? Yes, it's... That's right. What's next? So, the scalp bleeds from a post-mortem head injury, a stone. The injury does not have the rim of an early inflammatory response. The perpetrator on the scene has confessed to causing it post-mortem.
At maximum velocity, fucko!
Has confessed to causing it at maximum velocity.
The lieutenant's admission has caused great gratitude in Kuno. He is silent with it. Coagulated blood sticks to his scalp and chest, where the countless stones have hit the dead man. Beneath, the description of injury. 2 boxes.
Right. Next. A dark red abraded ligature mark encircling the neck, with a gap on the nape measuring, let's say, 7 centimeters. The hyoid bone is fractured, the cervical column intact. I see hemorrhaging on the skin, above and below the ligature mark. Depth of the mark, 1 centimeter. No signs of clawing on the neck.
Below the note, 2 customary boxes wait to be ticked. The man's head jerks to the side. The ring around his neck is visible. Think for a moment. There's time. Don't rush. What was that about no clawing around the neck? You'd be clawing for your life. He is deep in thought, eyes fixed on the bright red ring around the dead man's neck. A column of cold air encircles you, rising slowly upward in the shape of a courtyard, bordered by cracked plaster, windows, seagulls perched on air conditioning units. A small green enclosure in the middle of a corral of tenements, Cape-side apartments, whirling in rags, and the fortress wall of Terminal B. Above it, a thin blanket of coastal stratus clouds. Higher yet, coalition airships guard over the 21 cordons of the zone of control. The air is crisscrossed with radio transmissions. The hair on your neck rises.
Why do you say that? Is it the Siegel murder again, or are you serious? Okay. Why don't you think it was fatal? Honestly, I'm not sure there weren't marks on his wrists. That part got blurry for me. The stench. But you are right. There should be signs of struggle. Let's leave the cause of death empty for the time being. Let's wrap this up. I pronounce this field autopsy over. It was an irregular field autopsy. We did not establish cause of death, which is supposed to be the goal of an autopsy. But, personally, I do not see this as a parameter for success. We requested a test to be run on the genitals. That was de règle. The results should arrive in a couple of weeks if we are lucky. I will not hold my breath. Then, given the state of decay here, I consider establishing the victim's ethnicity a minor success. We were thorough with the list of injuries too. We described them all in detail. What is there to say? Given the circumstances, it was a professional field autopsy.
Oh yeah, well done, Master Detective. Maybe a drink is in order?
Now we put him in a body bag and I drive him to Forborg for processing.
The lieutenant looks at the dead man one more time, then at his notebook, then at the corpse again. He's thinking, did I miss something? You tilt your head, also looking at the corpse. I'm sure we didn't get everything. There's always something. Your arm reaches out and your eyes close, as if by their own volition. It's dark all around. You feel cold, dead flesh through the latex glove. It's right under the palm of your hand. His face, his cheeks, his nose, his fat, swollen lips. Like a rubber spider, your gloved hand crawls on his features. Everything is silent, all around. They are swollen shut. You need to really push to get in. Only the little one fits. The flesh changes shape as you bore in, searching for something in the cartilage.
The fuck is he doing?
The thing you're looking for, it's not there. Crawl out, spider. You pick it between your fingers. The mass is even larger than your nose. Very porous somehow, like it's about to pop. Keep crawling. lest you break it. The oral cavity is cold and moist. A ball-like tongue attaches itself to the base of the mouth, lolling around like a scallop. You're on the right track. The tongue moves freely in the cavity. The mucus of the mouth is slippery, fragile, even through the latex. From the soft meat, teeth are budding, hard pearls of bone in the gums and in the back of the mouth. Can you feel it? You're so close. Rip his jaws open now. Look in. A vision of black and dark red death, pried open by your hands and studded with teeth. Looks like he's laughing. Death fumes rising from his throat. And there, in the back of his mouth, above the bell of the uvula, right in the soft palate, you see a hole, barely visible to the human eye. It is swollen shut, almost vanished. No larger than 0.4 centimeters in radius, the edges appear darkened. An abrasion collar. This is what we're after.
I see it.
Kuno is silent. A black trickle of liquid runs into his throat from the wound. Your index fits right in there. A tight tunnel of flesh opens up, tissue damage, wide enough for 2 fingers. As you push both in, you reach through his mouth, right into his brainstem.
The fuck is happening?
Ah, shit, see?
Yes, that's what this part is called. You've seen the drawings. You've studied them. The basal ganglia feels clumpy. What entered here has torn apart his reptilian complex. This man will never sleep again, never wake. The funk soul brother at the back of his head has gone dark forever. Your yellow fingers slide into the remains of the limbic system. There is no resistance. It's gelatinous. The slug-like structures are damaged too. The tearing extends deep into both hemispheres. This is what he used to regulate his emotions with. The undulations of the limbic system have ended. All is quiet. The lieutenant answers with the sound of his pen on paper.
Fucking cavity, see?
Quivering with awe. Your fingers are all the way in now, reaching toward the inside of his skull. The cavity goes further, but the entry wound isn't wide enough for the rest of your hand to follow. All the muscles in your body harden. Time to enter him. The cartilage gives in with a crack, like some fruit. Just like that, your hand is in his head. Strange fluid streams down your wrist, and then you feel it with the tip of your finger. Ice-cold serrated metal. Its edges cut right through the latex and into your finger. The pain is barely noticeable under the adrenaline rush.
Can you get to it?
There's a tiny crack, a protrusion in the cranium, right in the back of his head. Your finger must be pointing straight at it, from the inside. The object that is in there stops just short of the skull, in the encephalus, knocking this tiny fracture into the cranium.
We have the makings of a very small exit wound here.
Forget fucking exit wound, Beano. The pig is wearing him like a fuck puppet.
Her voice is absolutely sizzling with excitement. You pick the object between your index and middle finger. Feels sharp, like metal. You press your teeth together. Your jaw is clenched. All you need to do is just...
My pig's fucking got it!
He's watching his old man get the big prize at the claw game.
What? What is it?
The inside of the head feels cold and smooth, like a glove. Sweat dripping down your brow. Careful not to lose the prize between your fingers. With a plop, your hand emerges from the mouth. The garden glove is covered in blood right up to the wrist. Between your fingers, a small flower, a blossom made of lead.
Fucking beautiful!
A bullet.
The bullet falls in the bag, leaving a smattering of blood on the plastic. He raises the bag under his eyes and says,
A non-caliber. Rifle. Some kind of brittle alloy. Fractured on impact. Of course, you deserve it. Looks like we need to add one more item to your injury list. Injury number 4. Oval entry wound with an abrasion collar. Soft palate, back of mouth. High velocity. Temporary cavity in brain tissue. Small exit wound on the occiput. How does that sound? Opinion, fatal injury. And one last thing. We can now fill in injury number 3. Ligament mark. Opinion, non-fatal. Post-mortem. Treatment.
He's proposing the bullet was the real cause of death, and the hanging an attempt to conceal this fact.
Yes, and the belt around his neck. The hanging. Even dragging him to the yard. All of it was done after this man was already dead. I have had my doubts since you showed me the tracks. Why did they carry him over? Why not march him, I thought. There was no satisfying explanation. There have been other signs too. Small things. We were right not to assign hanging as cause of death, as the perpetrators expected we would. No such luck for them.
We didn't fall for it, he thinks. There's pride in there. There is, of course, the very real possibility he was both shot and hanged.
That's for us to find out. But this, it will make finding them just a little easier. To hide something. The real killer, the real motivation, what really happened here. Oh, you really do. I am glad to hear you say that. Your room in the Whirling in Rags should come with a bathroom. Be sure to make use of it in the evening. Yes, we should take a closer look at it. I am certain it has more to tell us.
This little thing could reveal much about the weapon that shot it.
We put him in a bag and carry him to the holding pen of my kinema. The body bag should contain the odor for the duration of the transport. I would drive him to processing, but it's too late to do that today. I'll do it first thing tomorrow. No problem. One more thing. This was really good work, detective.
The word lingers in the air of the yard. As far away, dogs are barking. Further yet, the sound of motor traffic. Detective.
Shoot, Looney Rooney. Come back later, Corpo. Amuse yourself with my Frank man.
All right. I will need a little help carrying him. You take the hands, I'll take the legs.